get back into main. And speaking of lineup.
NPC, you're not real, bro.
Yeah. All right. Let me pull up the script.
Well, we got 8 viewers.
I'm glad to hear that. All right. So, welcome.
Welcome everyone.
Glad to have you on. My name is Connor. This is Chase Parker. He reached out to me about a month ago wanting to debate.
That's correct.
And here we are. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the structure will be something along the lines of, we'll have our introductions, then you will give me a claim on climate change and your evidence.
Yep.
I will try to refute that. We'll go back and forth for as long as, it takes. Then I'll give a claim on Trump. You and my evidence, you'll try to refute that. Then back and forth. So then you'll do a claim on LGBTQIA individuals. That's what I believe. And then I'll do immigration. You'll do Ukraine. And then I will do it on your plan for governorship. Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds good.
And you said you wanted to do 2 more things?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right.
That's correct.
That'll be a surprise for me, I guess.
Cool.
All right. Let me just make sure. People viewing, can you hear me? Can I?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live
You're going
podcast.
to peak the audio if you
Oh,
shout like
sorry
that.
about that.
No, you're good.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live podcast. Obviously, this is Chase. I've been promoting this debate a little bit for a while. So basically, everyone who knows me knows that I'm Chase Parker, the CEO of Chase Parker Enterprises, a future multi-million-dollar industry company. I previously expressed my plans to run for governor of North Carolina because obviously I want to become super powerful and important. And then a couple of months ago, this was about a month ago, I had one of my friends hit me up and say, hello, there is someone that I need you to meet and possibly do a political debate with. And so I hit up my man Connor on Instagram, and I've met him about an hour and a half ago. We've been over here chilling. He seems like a pretty cool guy. He is a North Carolina State University junior. I am a University of North Carolina Chapel Hill sophomore. And we're doing a political debate because he's expressed interest for running for the governor of North Carolina as a particularly Democratic candidate, and I've expressed interest for running for as a Republican candidate. So for the sake of leadership and the sake of the state, we have decided to give the people more of a introduction into what may come within possibly the next decade or even maybe a couple of decades or so. Who knows? You have to be at least, I think, like 30 to run for a governor of North Carolina. So obviously my plan as an individual is to obviously create my own personal brand and do podcasts as this for the next 10 years or so. And then what's stopping me from running for governor of North Carolina when I am 30? Absolutely nothing. So we have a script ready. We have a script of questions that we're going to discuss. This will be very professional. This will be very serious. And we're going to roll this until about 6 p.m. because I know, or however long it takes. Who knows how long it takes? Because I know the March Madness election shows at 6 p.m. So I know some people probably want to watch that. So we should get everything done by then. And I have the live stream rolling from my computer here. So at the very end, we're going to take chat comments. And I'm also screen recording it as well. So this video will be uploaded to YouTube and Rumble later tonight. And I will leave it up on YouTube for as long as possible. So I'm assuming over the next decade or so, this YouTube video will probably garner hundreds of thousands of views, probably over a decade or 2 decades or so. So obviously I'm going to take this very, very serious. And obviously that is my introduction as well. It's been very nice to meet you, Kahn.
Yes, it's been a pleasure to meet you.
He's a super chill guy.
So, let me take a minute to introduce myself. Your mic's on. My name is Connor Kahn. I'm a junior here at NC State University. Go Pack. I am a double major here at double major in political science with a concentration in American politics and philosophy with a concentration in ethics. I have been interested in politics for about as long as I can remember, and he reached out to me one day saying that he would like to debate. And I haven't had a good debate in forever, so I'm not one to back down from a debate. So I'm here, and let's get this rolling.
It's very right. So that's my introduction. I'm 19 years old. I go to the University of North Carolina. I currently work full-time as an emergency medical technician, and I'm in a paramedic class now. I'm hopefully looking to go to medical school and be a doctor. Also, while having my own personal brand as well, and I have an e-commerce store. Go to chaseparkerenterprises.com. You can buy my merchandise from me there. Anyone who watches me knows I'm also actively involved in investments and making money as well. A lot of you follow me because of that, and you ask me for financial advice. And obviously, I'm looking into creating content and making podcasts as well. So that is an introduction about myself. A lot of you, if you're watching this, you probably already know who I am. A lot of people know that I'm actively very, very right-wing. I backed Trump very, very hard, and I have a Trump flag in my room at my parents' house and my mom's house. I'm also a big Tate fan, and this guy does not like Tate. So we thought it would be very, very interesting to speak to each other about certain debates. And obviously, so far, it's been kept very, very friendly. There's been no animosity whatsoever. But as we go into this debate, I've told him, you can give me some little pushback. So yeah, Connor, that about does it for the introduction for myself. What's next on our list?
All right. Sorry, I'm getting comments that they can't hear. I'm trying to troubleshoot that. Just turning up again.
10 viewers. Here.
7 or so online. Okay. Check. Because I can't hear through this output, but that might just be OBS being a pain.
Just tell me to join it from my Instagram if it's not working.
Yeah, I'll, because I'm getting, like, it's fine, like, I'm picking up on the mic, but for some reason I can't get any audio. Let me remove this. Delete.
Technical difficulties interfering with the debate. I apologize, chat.
Sorry, guys. Just output capture, existing audio, create new. Okay. Default headphones.
Do you guys like my tie? It's
Okay.
very beautiful, isn't it?
That is such a pain.
If it's not working, just tell them to go to my Instagram at @chaseparkerenterprises_, please.
Yeah.
So let's get this rolling.
Okay.
The wonderful viewers.
Let's just send it, and then we'll work with it later. All right. So you have. I guess you won the coin toss. You start.
I'm starting. What's the first topic of discussion?
Climate change.
Climate change. So yeah, I'm obviously right wing, big Trump supporter. So climate change it's definitely real. Like, I mean, obviously I've took a lot of biology classes. I'm a bio major. Climate change is definitely real. I mean, obviously, like, it's a real thing. In regards to handling it as being a governor or a politician, I don't really know how you would do that. I mean, obviously, I'm for the people, right? So I don't know if it would necessarily be best to fund millions and millions of dollars and opposed to fixing climate change, when it would be better, I don't know, give it to local farmers or local people as well trying to start a small business. So it's definitely real. I'm not one of those anti-climate change people. I think probably the best thing to do in regards to being a governor would be to give it to the people who know what they're doing, obviously putting the people of the state first, and then making adjustments as possible. But it's definitely real. I'm not one of those redneck conservatives. Obviously, I'm really right-wing, but I'm not one of those redneck conservatives. I have a very interesting philosophy about it. So climate change is definitely real. As regards to fixing it, I don't think spending millions of dollars of money to fixing it is the best answer, but we do need to work with people that know what they're doing in regards to doing something that's manageable and reasonable. What about you, Connor?
All right. So I think that. Okay, sorry. Technical difficulties be damned. I think the main problem when it comes to this is that inaction that we have seen recently, especially when it comes to the private sector for climate change, has shown that the private sector will not do anything unless it is motivated by the government or by necessity. And I think that currently the government or the private sector has a very short-term mindset. Whatever makes the line go up in the short term is best. And there's court rulings that basically says that the only job of a corporation is to increase shareholder value. And I think that is antithetical to long-term prosperity of the nation and of our planet. And I think that without proper subsidies and proper guidance from the government when it comes to, I guess you could say, really mostly subsidization and public works, that the market will not do anything, because, like it was shown in the 70s, that the oil companies knew about this and engaged in what can only be described as a mass propaganda effort in order to obfuscate and deny that, one, climate change exists, and two, that they're causing it. And moreover, they paid a marketing company, branding company in the 90s, I believe, lots of money in order to come up with this concept of your carbon footprint. That is a direct result of oil propaganda, shifting the blame from these massive companies to the individual. And if that remains unchecked, we're never going to have any progress when it comes to the environment and protecting it, because the oil companies especially, their entire industry hinges on the continued destruction of the environment and the continued denial that that's happening.
Yeah. You're definitely not wrong there. Obviously, most major corporations are completely self-interested, as for most companies are. Really interested, what would your plan be to fix that? So if you were, say, the governor of the state, what would you do?
So if I were the governor of the state, first of all, I think that one of the most important things, looks like we're fine. One of the most important things for this would be to properly, how would I articulate this? Would be to properly incentivize the shift to carbon neutral and green energy sources, whether that is providing tax credits for renewable vehicles or subsidizing the production and the installation of solar panels. It really depends first on the location, even within the state, but also within the greater nation. So for North Carolina, we're not exactly Arizona when it comes to our solar, our ability to harvest solar energy. While we still do have some very arid places and some places that are able to absorb lots of sun. Like, have you ever been to the Google solar farms?
I have not.
Okay, well, in more western North Carolina, foothills region, Google has some solar farms that are fields of just solar panels. But I think ultimately it really is sticks and carrots. So for a governor or for a president, we need to incentivize the shift to green energy while also punish those that either that prevent the shift or continue to destroy the environment.
Yeah, very interesting take. I think this is the best way to do it. We can talk about it, then discuss how we would do it if we were the ones making the policies. So I like you doing that. That's why I asked you, what would you do if you were governor? So now go back to my term as well. If I was the governor, how would I handle climate change? I want to be completely honest. I've been like an emergency medical technician. I've done like medical transport. I've seen how a lot of people live, especially in low income areas, a lot of unhealthy environments as well. I definitely agree that climate change is real. I'm not going to be one of those redneck conservatives that necessarily says it's fake, but I genuinely believe that putting the self-interest of people is way above it. So in terms of if I have a big pot of money as governor and I get to decide money goes to this and money goes to that, obviously I would want to hear where climate change ranks amongst the people's things and what they are interested in. But simply, I don't think that the average North Carolinian that lives on a farm, that is broke, that's struggling to buy groceries, I don't really think they care about switching to Teslas. So in regards to, I understand why you say that, but in regards to, I don't want to say it would be an issue that would be ignored, but I think it would be an issue that would literally be lowest priority in regards, if that makes sense as well.
Well, that's the problem. As I've said, people are very short-term minded. And as long as people keep on saying, I've got other things on my plate, that constant, I guess, kicking it back to the back of the bus has been a constant problem and has led us to this situation where it's getting more and more dire.
Yep.
So I think this sort of populist idea, well, it's what the people need, it's what the people believe is important, is flawed also because the average person doesn't know how bad it is. So I
don't
think
really
that's
understand.
So that's where I think we might differ. Is,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, like, I'm not trying to position myself better than other people or better than the average person, but it is important to understand that not everyone are policy wonks. Not everyone, gets to go to college and study political science or are political hobbyists and or even understand the basics of climate science. So saying that, we need to do just what the people believe is best is a little short-sighted, I believe.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that, and I feel like that's why I'm definitely quite different than people that are extremely right-wing, is because a lot of people that I found that are right-wing are very, very uneducated individuals. Let's just be honest, I don't typically have a college degree. So my goal is I want to be an extremely educated, intelligent individual that serves the people of the right-wing community. So obviously that's who I am. Obviously, climate change is a very, very boring topic. So what's next on our list?
Oh, well,
So more people get interested.
the polar opposite of boring, Trump.
Oh yeah, my man, the bulletproof outlaw, the legend that survived countless lawfare attacks, that got shot in the air and stood up and said, "Fight, fight, fight," the commander-in-chief that is leading the free world, my hero, Mr. Donald Trump. How do you feel about him?
So my point, well, I think you're teeing me up here. I think he's a fascist, and I think he's a threat to our democracy.
Okay.
So the main reasons why is I feel like the best way I can outline it is, do you know what patrimonialism is?
I do not.
Okay, patrimonialism is this concept in government where it is, I guess, this, format of a government system or of a not executive branch, of a government, of a whole government, where all of the power flows from one single person. And patrimonialism is something that Trump has been trying to enact, whether knowing of its name or not. So right now we have seen, especially in Trump 2 with the 2024 presidency, that he has rapidly and continually tried to shift the balance of power of the government, not only towards the executive branch, but towards him. You see this, first of all, with his constant erosion of the First Amendment. You have many...
How has he violated the First Amendment?
Okay, so that's a good thing. So first of all, right now, we have the government forcibly disappearing Mohammed Khalil. He is a legal citizen who was arrested and detained by ICE and had his green card revoked for political protest. If that's not enough for you, we have...
I don't know anything about that.
So yes, and so it was under this idea of counterterrorism and anti-terrorism, and he was a pro-Palestinian activist. He wasn't in favor of Hamas. He wasn't condoning the horrible attack on October 7th. He was supporting the plight of the Palestinian people, and he was forcibly disappeared because of that. He is currently unknown where he is and is threatened to be deported, and he is a completely legal resident of the United States. If that's not scary, I don't know what is. But if that's not enough, you have, when it comes to his erosion of the First Amendment, you have his threat to mass arrest and deport anybody engaged in protest on campus. And he truthed it or tweeted it or whatever you want to call it recently, that he hopes every single state college will comply. So that's another. So and then you have his attacks on the press. You have his attacks on freedom of religion. You have his Muslim ban. You have his constant merging with trying to intermingle church and state. Not only having a Christian advisor that wants to make sure all of Christianity is, supported and upheld. And I'm fine with Christianity, but I think that is a dangerous sign towards promoting it in favor of any other religion, which is contrapuntal, complete opposite of what the First Amendment holds. Moreover, and that's just the First Amendment stuff. You have so many other things. You have his abuse of the federal system. You have his restructuring of the federal government to consolidate more power. You have, do you know the Schedule F plan?
I do not.
Okay, so Schedule F appointments are this, I don't want to say fringe legal theory, but they were created during Trump 1, and they are, he wants to, I guess, restructure the federal government and lots of executive branch employees with something called Schedule F appointments. And Schedule F appointments are very similar to civil service workers, but they don't have similar civil service protections, which means that they don't have protections, most importantly, regarding politically motivated firing, which means that they will have to kowtow to him in order to keep their jobs. Normal civil servants do not have, I guess, the freedom to express themselves and still remain employed, while Schedule F are completely, like, I guess, open to getting fired and fired for their political beliefs. And that is another attack he has on the First Amendment and American democracy. And I haven't even gotten to January 6th and his plan to overturn the 2020 election, which is the biggest insider attack on the United States government since the Civil War. And that I haven't even got to.
All right, so you did your little rant about Trump, obviously how you feel. Obviously, I want to respond to that. So I think some things you talked about is press, religion, obviously restructuring of the government. I didn't think you mentioned Elon Musk, did you? You talked about him firing massive people. And what else was there at the end? January 6th, was that right?
I mentioned that.
Yeah, so in regards to, like, for example, him obviously arresting protesters with the guy with the pro-Palestine stuff, I don't know anything about that. I will say, though, unlike, I guess, like other conservatives, I like to look into things. So obviously, I feel like I'm more pro-Palestine. I genuinely believe that the government of Israel is committing terrible attacks on little kids in Gaza who are just getting killed, basically. And like I said, I don't really know what Trump's plan is in regards to ending that. I would hope that he has some plans, assuming because I feel like he's anti-war. Yeah, so like I said, I'm completely pro-Palestine. I think that there are little kids dying. And as for the October 7th attack, I mean, that's the problem with a lot of conservatives. I feel like a lot of conservatives, they're not, like I said, they don't really know, they're not quite educated on certain things. So they'll say in the October 7th attack, they'll say, oh, like Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th. And I'll say, October 7th? You believe it happened on October 7th and it hasn't been going on since 1947? So yeah, I understand what's going on in Gaza, and I understand that's completely unfair. And basically, people there are living in an open-air prison. But like I said, I don't know anything about these people getting deported. I don't know much about that with the protest. But after I shaped that up, what else was there? You said also attack on the press.
Yeah. Also, this morning, he approved the deportation and removal of like 282 prisoners to El Salvador's Seco prison, which is, and don't even get me started on the Guantanamo Bay stuff. I think that
were they U.S. citizens?
I don't know off the top of my head, but if I believe they're Venezuelan, which that doesn't even.
Why should it be in America though?
Well, so I understand you say that, and we can get to that on immigration, but it's more complex than that. So as you were saying about the press.
So I'm going to be completely honest. I genuinely do not believe anything I hear from a media news outlet and like any legal system. And that's why I'm particularly a big Trump fan, because he's so anti-establishment, anti-government. 'Cause I don't know about you, but within the past, 10 years, I think that's why a lot of people don't like Trump, because he has genuinely done so much harm to the credit of media establishment. Like before, I feel like anyone would have just, like 10 years ago, people saw something on the news, like, oh yeah, like the news said that, like it was right. But now I feel like people see something on the news and like, I don't really know, I don't really believe it. But Trump, he comes along, he's like, fake news media, it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. And I don't know about you, but I genuinely do not believe anything I hear from a media news outlet, or even I feel like some laws are corrupt. I have a question to you. So this is my question for you that I use to a lot of, like for example, a lot of people will say, they'll say Trump, they'll say he's a rapist, right? They'll say that, it'll be their argument, and because they'll see a news outlet, and especially they'll see a media outline that says this person's a rapist, right? It could be true, it could not be, right? Let me ask you a question. Let's say there was a chess game, right? Let's say there was a game of chess. You were playing a chess game with one of your friends, right? Let's say you could cheat in the chess game. and no one would know, that would help you win the chess game, and you got $100,000 to win the chess game. Now, I'm not saying for you individually. If you take the average person and say they could cheat during a chess game and no one would know and they would get $100,000, would you think the average person would cheat in the chess game?
I don't know how this is germane to the topic of Trump, but go on.
Do you think the average person would cheat in a chess game for $100,000?
I really do not know. I'm assuming you want me to say yes because that's your.
I mean,
let's just say.
But do you think the average person would cheat? That doesn't have any money. Do you think they would cheat
I am
in a chess
not the
game?
average person, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know what? Yes, sure. To continue your point, yes.
Yeah. So the average person, say they're broke, they can't pay their bills, they can't pay their rent. Yeah, sure, they would cheat for $100,000 in a basketball game. So you don't think the people that rule the world and control news outlets will lie about a news source to put someone in jail they don't like? Do you actually believe that? I'm not saying you did, but you've just told me that the average person will cheat over something that's unimportant, like a chess game that doesn't matter, for $100,000, which is just a little bit of money. I mean, most people would cheat over a basketball game or a video game for a little bit of money, for something that's not even important. So I get what you're saying about attacking the press, and you feel like that's inappropriate, which I guess in certain instances it could be, but I see people that hold a lot of power. I don't believe things immediately when I say them. I mean, I don't know what exactly you're going into with attack on the press. Could you list an example?
Yeah. So I think one of the main things when it comes to his attack on the press is he has completely excised all, I guess, I want to say institutional press agencies like Reuters or the AP, people that are, from normal people considered pretty solid bastions of effective journalism, and he's replaced them in the Oval Office with things that can only be described as journalism if you are so far right-wing that it's already preaching to the choir. So you have OAN, you have Newsmax. I don't even think they have Fox anymore. So that's one thing and then also you have his constant lying. He lies more than he breathes. I believe during his first term, he lied somewhere around 30,000 times. And the fact that you say you trust him over news agencies and over the law even is, I think, a little indicative of I guess an ideology that cannot be reasoned with normal reason. If I can present all of these facts, now I can present all of this information for news agencies, and someone just says, well, I don't believe it because I don't believe in the news agency. What am I supposed to do here? It's the main defense of conspiratorial thought. It's why it's very hard to debate flat earthers, because a lot of their argument deals with the complete prima facie rejection of reality. So in a way, it's almost Cartesian in a way. Are you familiar with the works of Descartes?
I've heard of him, but I'm not familiar with his works.
Okay, never mind. But, so, I think also when it comes to Trump, and it comes to his constant lying, and it comes to his attacks on the press, he has brought this newfound causticness into political debate. He has called for the arrests and executions of his political opponents. He has this...
Do you think the Biden administration did that?
Not called for the executions of opponents.
Did he call for the execution?
What?
Did he call for execution?
Who is he?
Trump.
Yes. He and his allies have called for the execution of political opponents.
Oh, you talking about the ISIS? Is that?
No.
Oh.
I'm
I just don't know anything
for
about
example,
this.
Okay, so for example, even locally, do you know who Michelle Morrow is?
I do not.
Okay, Michelle Morrow is a failure candidate. She was running for North Carolina Department of Education or Education Instruction, some sort of DOE type thing for the NC government. She was on the Capitol of January 6th, and previous posts from her, around 2012 or whatever, called for the execution of Obama. And she is this MAGA hero. She's this big person relatively for the Trump movement. And I just don't think that caustic behavior is acceptable in a developed society. It's not acceptable. We can do better as this in Americans than calling for the execution of people we don't like. And that's just the tip of the iceberg for Trump. Do you know the writings of Umberto Eco?
No, I do not.
Okay. Umberto Eco is an Italian historian and novelist, and he has this very famous essay called Fascismo, or Eternal Fascism, where he's a scholar, and he's outlined the 14 points of fascism that most fascistic movements and ideologies subscribe to. And even most charitably, the least the Trump administration, the MAGA movement, applies to is at minimum 11 out of the 14. So I think it is evident to anyone who does even the most cursory amount of research that the MAGA movement and Trump is a fascist, that is having him in office is very scary to the fundamentals of our democracy.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, especially with him trying to rewrite the. Wasn't he trying to talk about running for a third term? Something like that. Yeah. So
he hasn't really said much about it, but his orbiters and his cronies have implemented, like, I think it's like the third term project or something.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. Obviously, like, condemning killing anyone is absolutely unacceptable, and obviously,
you mean condoning.
Yeah, and then you say something about killing Obama or something like that.
Yeah,
condoning killing Obama. Yeah, that's obviously unacceptable. I mean, obviously, like, a lot of that deeper stuff that you mentioned with Trump, like I said, I don't know personally, and like I said, I don't know Donald Trump personally. And obviously, calling to execute Obama is ridiculous. I mean, that's his. And like I said, I don't know Donald Trump personally, but I feel like, obviously, like I said, I can't condone other people because I understand why people vote for who they vote for. Like, I understand why liberal people voted for Kamala. I understand why people like me voted for Trump, because in the grand scheme of things, Donald Trump, that victory was so important for especially masculinity as a whole. Like I said, I don't know Donald Trump personally. I don't know anything about him. But Donald Trump, especially in a world where a lot of men, especially, like, keep in mind, man, if you're a man, say you're 18, 19 years old, you're absolutely no important, you have no Instagram followers, no girl wants to talk to you, you're broke, your life sucks. You have a lot of men committing depression. No one talks about that. A lot of male suicide. And it's very, very sad. And no one absolutely cares about men at all. And that's the truth of the world. A lot of people say men have better lives. And that's not true. Only 1% of men have better lives. But for most men, are absolutely unimportant. No one really cares about them. Their life sucks. They're working a minimum wage job. And that's the reality for most men. I would say most men are depressed. So I feel like Donald Trump winning was really important.
But how?
Well, he's very inspiring. Just to me personally, I look at, despite all political beliefs, I find Donald Trump very inspiring just as a person. Because, look, keep in mind, he's a billionaire. He built a real estate empire. He was capital of media. Obviously, he said some controversial things, obviously, about women. But, I just, despite all politics, I look at him as someone, like, he's rich. He's important. He's very confident. 'Cause, I mean, despite everything he says, yes, you can say he lied, which, like, I don't know exactly what he's lied about. I'm sure he probably has fibbed a bit, but I mean, he's just very, very, like most teenage boys that look at Trump, they just see him as something very, very admirable to become. And obviously, like, yeah, he might say some out-of-pocket stuff in general, but I mean, that's just how men always have been. And I look at Trump specifically, and I really respect him, and I feel like him winning that election was great to inspire a lot of young men that masculinity is not gone, and that you can still, I don't know. I feel like it was, because that's the thing I feel about politics.
So do you believe Trump is like this masculine individual, this very masculine figure?
I believe that he inspires a lot of young men, yes, I believe that's what he's good for.
What about him is it? Is it him cheating on his wives 3 separate times, one with a porn star, his like 8 separate bankruptcies, his constant philandering, his repeated lying, his diet consisting of like entirely McDonald's and Diet Coke?
He's my hero.
I don't see how you can look up to him as some inspiration without an entirely just mountain full of disinformation. It is a cult.
I understand what you're saying, and obviously, like I said, I'm interested in coming into here because I want to make this. I want to be very respectful, and I want to keep an open mind as well. And obviously, I think since we've talked about cheating on women, we have to talk about Tate next because that'll be super interesting. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, I'm not condoning cheating on women, but let's be honest, bro. If you're a billionaire, you're the most famous man in the world. Like, It's going to happen. Like, you look at a bunch of dudes.
No, it's not. There's plenty of billionaires. There's plenty of millionaires. There's plenty of politicians who are happily married and have been married throughout their entire life.
And there are a lot that aren't.
Yeah, but
I get what you're saying.
But if he's supposed to be this heroic masculine figure, you're supposed to hold him to a higher regard, not just wave it off because he's a billionaire.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, but to the typical 18-year-old boy that is
But those
broken,
aren't the ideas that an 18-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old should be looking up to. Those aren't good values, saying that, oh, once you're a billionaire, it's okay to cheat on people. That is wrong, and that's wrong for society, and that's fundamentally, morally bankrupt.
I understand what you're saying. Yes, if you have a girlfriend, you're in love, and cheating on her, yes, that could be seen as wrong. But let me flip the imperative. Let's say you're a really rich, important guy, which you seem like you're a smart guy. I'm assuming you'll probably have a good career and you'll do well for yourself. Let's say you got 2 wives, right? Say if you did. I'm not saying you ever will. Let's say you have 2 wives.
2 wives, so at the same time?
Yes. So let's say you have 2 wives, and you're both paying for your life. You buy them houses, you buy them cars, you completely take care of their lifestyle so they don't have to work. You're still kind to them. You talk to them every single day, and you treat them with absolute respect. And say you are the most famous and rich guy in the world. Do you think that the average woman would rather share something like that than be single? Like, I don't know. Like, obviously, I know that cheating is not ethical, but do you think, like, let's say if you were a girl, let's say you were a 20-year-old girl, would you rather have a man that pays for all your bills, that buys you a house, lets you live in a mansion, that lets you drive whatever car you want, or would you rather clock in at McDonald's, bro? Like, let's be honest.
Again, I think these, like, first of all, they're not very germane to what we're talking about when it comes to Trump. I think they're segues to get to talk to Tate, and we'll talk about Tate.
Yeah.
We can save this for when we talk about Tate. But also, I think reducing women, or anyone in general, to just objects that, are happy if they're placated with all the money in the world and all the houses or whatever the hell it is. I think that is wrong from a moral ground. I don't think that is correct to just demean women in that kind of way. Especially the way that being employed is not a bad thing. Like, there are plenty of women who work at McDonald's that are perfectly happy. I don't know. I just don't think that is a great argument. But
yeah, I get you. We'll get to gender equality in a second. So we talked about him cheating on his wives. Obviously, what else would you say about Trump? That was bad.
The greatest internal attack on America since the Civil War when it comes to January 6th, and moreover, like January 6th, yes, that's terrible. But I think the main problem is his conspiracy to overturn the election through the false slates of electors. And not a lot of people understand how fundamentally, morally bankrupt that is. And the 2020 election, you didn't vote in 2020.
I was 15.
Because you're younger than me.
Yeah.
Anyone who's watching this, who voted in the 2020 election, even if you voted for Trump, he tried to throw your vote out the window and usurp himself as president. And that is fundamentally the most undemocratic thing possible. Do you know the false slates of electors? Do you know what he did?
No, you're not.
Okay. So, all right. So, what happened? More or less. There's a lot more nuance to this, but I'm going to just articulate it as simply as possible. Is for every state, you have, do you know the Electoral College?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay, so when every state is certified, they go through this titular vote where whatever party wins the most amount of votes gets to send in their slate of electors to vote. What Trump tried to do is he tried to he tried to get false slates of electors in 7 states that weren't authorized by the state governments or their governor or anyone else except for his cronies to create these false slates of these certificates, which basically are what ultimately kind of decide the election. They're called certificates of ascertainment. And that's what they were counting on January 6th, more or less. And they believed in this fringe legal theory proposed by moron Ken Cheeseborough that it's called the Pence card, that the vice president has this unilateral, I guess, unilateral power to decide which slates of electors and which certificates of ascertainments they accept. That is incorrect. It was never true. And they tried to I guess, swap out the valid slates of electors and the valid states that he lost with certificates that say that he won.
He's a gangster.
Gangsters shouldn't be running our country. That I don't know how to explain it to you any more than that somebody who has this flagrant and flippant disregard for the rule of law should not be running our country. Or turn into like Indonesia or whatever during the purge when they contracted gangsters to run the country. It is not correct. It is rampantly corrupt. And it is just a flagrant disregard of everything that America stands for.
Well,
tell me, please explain to me how trying to throw out millions of votes and usurp yourself as the rightful president does not go against the ideas of American democracy. Tell me how that is the case.
Yeah, like I said, sometimes it does take a bad guy to be a bad guy. And like I said, I don't know much about that. I mean, there's still a lot that we don't know about the 2020 election. I mean,
no, it's the most secure election in history.
You think so?
Yes, I know so. I've done my research.
Right. Well, I haven't looked that much into it. But
exactly.
Like I said, I don't really know much about that. But Trump is just he's a hyper-masculine man, and he doesn't like losing, and he's very ambitious. And personally, that's why I look up to him, because obviously I want to be someone extremely important as well, and extremely wealthy as well. I look up to Trump. Obviously, like I said, I don't necessarily have to agree with everything someone does to, I guess, still be friends with them. Like I said, I probably don't agree with everything you agree with as well, but that doesn't mean we can't be friends.
Exactly.
But
I think there's a difference between, like, we disagree on political views. You didn't try to overthrow the government. I feel like that is a much bigger step, and I think that's quite a false equivalency. Like, I would probably have a different view if you lost an election and then said, no, I won, and I'm not leaving. That's a very big difference. Do you understand that there's a difference there?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Obviously, I can't agree with everything someone does, but I feel like just from, like, I understand what you're saying, some things don't line up, but I feel like he will always be a hero, and you always have a special place in my heart, just from the idea of just, like, for example, he has his 3 rules. There's a Trump TV show where he did when he was younger. Obviously, no, it wasn't his big one, but they made a Netflix documentary about him. He says these 3 rules. He's like, never admit guilt, never give in, keep attacking, and always try to be the best. And obviously, he took that very, very seriously. And I mean, enough people voted for him, so he did become president.
Those are the 3 rules.
What were the 3 rules again?
Never admit defeat, attack, and even if you lost, you claim victory.
He took those rules seriously. He's a man of his word. You just said he lied.
Yes, he does lie.
He stayed true to himself.
That's not a good thing.
It's very honorable.
Okay. Well, I guess we can agree to disagree that trying to overthrow the government is an honorable action. However, I think, so we don't, get put in a rut here, do you want to move on to the next topic?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I guess the other thing when it comes to Trump, if ethics are nothing for you and you don't care that he's like a terrible person or whatever, he's also a massive threat to the economy and geopolitical soft power. And this is more substantial for policy wonks. Just, he can be this awesome masculine figure. He still sucks when it comes to running the country. So he, especially recently, these past, almost 3 months now, he has routinely attacked our allies and bolstered our enemies for no reason. He has over 4 or $5 trillion has been wiped from the stock market since he took election because of his terrible tariffs plan. And I can explain to you why he's already spent over $1 trillion in deficit spending, also since the start of the fiscal year. Moreover, because of all of this just insane behavior that no economists condone, more and more our former allies are looking towards China as a more dependable and stable trading partner. And this balance of power shifting is we can be totally self-sufficient all we want, but that means that a power vacuum has opened up in the geopolitical world. And China is looking more and more to overtake all of these things, like the Belt and Road Initiative, where they've made massive grounds in Europe and Africa as trading partners. They've overtaken ports. They've, like the Hambantota port in Sri Lanka, they have a 99-year lease. They have the Piraeus port in Greece they own, more or less. They have lots of deals in Africa with basically raw material exchanges and are developing inroads for trading there. And the United States is currently tariffing Canada, one of our greatest trading partners, for no good reason, and routinely demeaning the Canadian government and wanting to invade Greenland for no reason. So as much as you love him, there is still the fact that he is not a good leader internationally and geopolitically. He is a nightmare for international relations.
Yeah, I understand a bit about what you're saying. So in first regards to him wiping out the $4 to $5 trillion from the stock market, yeah, I know about that. I think the S&P 500 dropped 5% ever since he's been in office. I think a lot of people don't really understand the broader plan of what he's trying to do. He's basically talked about his plan to basically refinance the national debt. So, this is one thing that I know a lot about investments. So I read a couple articles, I've watched many videos. Basically, he's basically intending to create a market sell-off purposefully. Because what he's trying to do is the U.S. is, how much debt are they in right now? Just a couple trillion, something like that.
I believe it's around 20 to 30.
So basically, Trump has said multiple times that he's trying to create a market sell-off, basically, so the Fed will purposely decrease interest rates so he can refinance the national debt at lower interest rates. That's basically what he's trying to do. He's basically kind of mentioned that it's okay, there's going to be there's going to be a little bit of loss in the short term. People's 401ks are going to go down a little bit, but basically for the long term of America in general, it will be better as a whole. That is from my understanding, because he needs to refinance the national interest rate at basically lower interest rates. Because I think the rate for a mortgage now is 8-9%, something like that. It's crazy. But but with anyone that understands basic investments, you can make money basically when a market goes up or down, and you can lose money when a market goes up or down. You can short, you can long it. I know basically that's what you're saying, and I know you know a lot about the internal stuff about Trump's policies that I'm probably not too well versed on, obviously, because I'm not a political science major. I'm just going to run for governor one day. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, I feel like still Trump winning is better for society as a whole, because Trump he's a very important figure to a lot of young men in particular, and him winning that election was good for inspiring a lot of young men, obviously, to become extremely important, to do better with themselves, and become richer in general, and to be more strong and be more masculine. And I feel like in general, women are more of a reflection of men. If you have a society where you have a bunch of strong, important men, that's also going to reflect on women as well. I don't necessarily, we'll get into gender equality in a second, but I think the good idea of the traditional household, you have man, wife, kids, I feel like that is good just for society in general. So I understand with what you're saying, you disagree with a lot of his policies and you think he's a big international bully, which sometimes it takes a bad guy to beat a bad guy.
Okay, but
perhaps he's the Batman.
There's the thing, he's not Batman, he's an idiot. We had great relations with Canada. We had great relations with the UK. We had great relations with Denmark. And for no reason whatsoever that a actual political scholar can come up with, he's just started bullying them. There's no reason. If they've screwed us over on a trade deal or whatever, that's different. But that is not the case. It's just this giant international dick measurement contest that does nothing except for ruin our soft power. So you can be, the biggest, alpha male in the room, but at the expense of all of our United States soft power, that is a geopolitically moronic move just to and our allies aren't dumb. They already know that we're the biggest economy in the world, and we have one or two, the second or first largest nuclear arsenal in the world, and 2 of the 3 largest militaries in the world. We don't need to remind them by a mean tweet and just tariffing alcohol by 200%. It is a moronic way to show that we have power. Do you know the idea of speak softly and carry a big stick? Okay. Famous quote by Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah.
It's the idea of big stick diplomacy. But what he's doing here is he's speaking loudly and carrying a big stick and using that stick to beat his own kneecaps in. It is idiotic on the geopolitical front, but I sense that you aren't super well read on international relations and geopolitics.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we
yeah.
can go to the next topic.
We can, but I still want to say one thing as well. So when I first graduated high school, I took a trip to Japan. I went by myself. It was my first trip to Japan, just as an adventure. And when I went to Japan, I noticed there were no American cars. There were European cars, there were Audis, there were BMWs. There are no American cars, but it's in America. We have every single car. So from my understanding, why, just from a hustle perspective, obviously when we want to make
the
money.
reason why is because we have protectionist policies. We have tariffs in place on Japanese vehicles. Because if we didn't, there would be no more Fords on the street. They can just, over in Japan and South Korea, they can just produce vehicles cheaper and better than we can, but we have put in these protectionist tariffs in order to preserve American automotive manufacturing. So they have retaliatory tariffs, so and they have no reason to buy a Ford when they can get a Japanese vehicle for cheaper that's better. That's why there's no American vehicles. It's simple economics. So on to the next topic.
Yeah.
You said the next one on the line is LGBT issues. That would be your proposition. It would be your turn to
Yeah. So for LGBTQ, if I were governor, I wouldn't eliminate gay marriage. I wouldn't do that. I don't know how I would really. I mean, you can tell me what policies you can put in regards to LGBTQ, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not a homophobe. I'm gay. I don't mind gay people. They don't really bother me. I mean, as long as you mind your own business and you be a good person, I feel like that's what's most important. Well, what policies did you want to mention that you had in mind?
You were the one who suggested this issue.
I thought it'd be important.
What?
I thought it'd be important.
I mean, it is important. I consider myself a big ally. I love and respect my gay and lesbian and bisexual and transgender, intersex, asexual, all of those people. I respect them and appreciate them, and I believe that it is important to make sure that they are loved and accepted, because once a government or a community starts driving out those people and othering them, that's when we have mental health crises. That's when we have those problems. And I think it is important, not only from a cultural aspect, because this is one of the things where America is a bastion of liberal values compared to a lot of the other nations. We have federally protected gay marriage, and that's something that America is amazing for. I think Obergefell versus Hodges might be one of, if not the biggest thing to happen under Obama in the social lens. So I don't know what to say except for I universally support my.
See, Connor's a good person. Good for him. So yeah, if I was, like I said, good for you. Me personally, I wouldn't know if I would describe myself to be an LGBTQ ally. I don't know. I wouldn't do anything to harm anyone, obviously, but I mean, as opposed to, doing anything to support it, I don't necessarily know. Just because for me, I think the idea of like man, wife, family is obviously the best thing. It's obviously what nations were built upon. It's what built the modern world. So I wouldn't obviously do anything to promote it. I wouldn't want it to be promoted in schools for little kids. So I mean, that's basically how I stand on it. But it's okay. So we disagree on certain things, but we can go to the next one, Connor.
Immigration is the next one.
Immigration, yes. So I don't know how.
I believe it's my point.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm trying to make this chill.
No, you're good. You're good. Seriously, if you want to say something.
Oh, go ahead, bro.
Okay,
Go ahead, bro.
My claim is Trump does not care about the border. So, let me ask you this question. Let's say, are you a car person?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, let's say you have this vintage Corvette.
Yeah.
And you get it insured, and you get it insured, and you make sure it's in pristine condition. And then one day, you decide to Molotov it and burn it to the ground and then blow it up to get the insurance money. Did you care about the Corvette?
How much insurance money did you get from it? Obviously, if it's not an insane amount, I would say I
you
did
get it
care
insured
about
for the value.
Well, it depends on if I really need money.
So the answer is No, if you love and
To a
care,
certain extent, yes. No,
if you
I
love
get you.
and
No,
care about the
I don't care
silverback,
about the car. Yes,
and then
That's
you
right.
blow it up, you don't care about it.
Yeah,
and
to a certain extent.
that's
Yeah.
what happened with Trump and the border. We had something called, it's kind of colloquially called the Langford's Act, or Langford's Bill. John, I believe his name, John Langford, is a senator from, if I'm not incorrect, Oklahoma. He introduced this bipartisan border bill along with independent Democratic Senator Kyrsten Sinema during the Biden administration. And it was supported across the aisle by both parties, bipartisan support. And Trump called up his people in the House and Senate and told them to vote against it so he could campaign on a border issue. He killed the bill in order to cause chaos, to campaign on it. He doesn't care about the average person. He wants chaos so he can campaign on it. And that's why he doesn't care. He wants the insurance money. He wants a talking point. He doesn't want progress.
I feel like all press is good press, though. Obviously, when you're trying to win elections, you do certain things. I mean, I feel like everyone who runs that is guilty of that, not just Trump. Yeah, like I said, I don't know much about that either. So, we're talking about immigration.
Yes.
Well, what does that have to do with like actually like the immigration issue, though?
That bill would have addressed a lot of the problems with our immigration and asylum process right now, but he killed it. He killed it so that he could talk about how we have this wave of migrants flooding across the southern border.
Yep.
They're rapists and they're thieves and whatever talking points you want to use to demean immigrants. He did that deliberately because he doesn't care. There's no other reason than if he actually cared about the border and the American people, he would have endorsed it. And
You already started
allowed it to
deporting
happen.
people. Did you know that? You started deporting people.
So, one of the main problems with mass deportations is it is from I guess, a bird's eye view, from an analytic sort of straight look at it. Mass deportations are kind of impossible,
Okay.
and that's one of the main things. I forget the numbers, but we have enough illegal immigration, presumed, even most charitably, to where if we were to, do internment camps and mass arrests and whatever, not only would we have to increase ICE's presence by magnitudes, we would also have to facilitate the construction of, at least over double our prison population, and we already have the largest prison population in the entire world by quite a large margin. So next, if we want to be pragmatic, we need to look at, okay, what are the other things? What are the other problems? How else would we be able to fix this? Because whether or not, okay, this is also hinging on the idea that we have a problem with illegal immigration. Kind of complex to talk about right now. It's not true. We have a problem with the asylum process. But even if, we wanted to, he campaigned on mass deportations. Well, they're not going to happen. By the amount of mass deportations he would do would be a drop in the bucket. The problem would be curbing the demand and, moreover, creating a path to citizenship. Because I forget the statistics, but you are like 6 times more likely to commit a crime than an immigrant.
Okay.
So, and they also provide more to, anyways, I don't know the facts exactly off the top of my head, so I'm not going to I'm not going to talk out of my ass here because that's incorrect. But so,
yeah, I think that's where we differ. I mean, obviously, I don't know how much a governor would be able to handle immigration, but if I was in regards to a president, I'm going to be very honest, I'm very anti-immigration. If you do not deserve to be here, you need to leave. I don't know about me personally, but I would rather spend $15,000 deporting you than to pay for your life forever. I mean, I know that's a kind of harsh process, but I mean...
Okay, who deserves to be in America?
Anyone with a U.S. passport, yeah, that's who deserves to be in America. And then people who came here, obviously, on visas, and they're working. I mean, if you get across the border, fine, then good for you.
Okay, what about refugees? Someone seeking, someone fleeing religious persecution.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I took a class on asylum seeking, and I know it's a very, very complex, backed up process, especially
So
as
do you think refugees have a place in America? Yes or no?
Perhaps,
question?
yes, within a certain extent. Like I said, I'm not really well versed on how exactly a process would work, but I honestly think there's a lot of moral questions that go into that. So, like I said, kind of like you, I don't want to talk into anything out of my ass, but I believe it's important. But obviously, anyone fleeing a country for religious persecution or they're fleeing in war, yes, I absolutely hope that these people are safe and they're okay. But it kind of goes back to a certain extent of, how do I say this? I feel like putting American citizens first is essentially more important than anything first. That's what I believe. So, I mean, it's kind of like what I was saying, like with the climate change issue, like last priority.
Okay.
Basically.
All right. All right, I'm not going to press. Let's just keep on going. Ukraine.
Yeah, so the thing that's so interesting about that war is I firmly believe that entire war is a massive money laundering scheme. How about you?
I don't. I think that's a conspiracy theory, and I wonder what evidence you have.
I don't know. It just seems that
Then it's a conspiracy.
every political politician that you have just wants to send money to Ukraine.
Yes, because they're our ally, and stopping the Russian sphere of influence is good for the United States overseas.
But it goes back to,
And also, this money, a lot of it is from our surplus stockpiles and depreciated stuff that we no longer use. So when it comes to this, we're not like, I mean, partially we are, but a lot of the stuff is from older United States stuff. Like, our C grade stuff is still better than most nations' A grade stuff, and it's just rotting there. Mostly, a lot of our firearms and a lot of our infantry and weaponry. And the reason why almost every senator wants to send money to Ukraine because no matter how you look at it, it is a net good for the world and for America.
how is it good for the world?
For the world, because, so first of all, you have, I guess, the ethical idea. Let's say Canada attacks us. Canada has been building up troop presence around the state of Maine, and one day, I don't know, say February 22nd, 2022 or whatever, some random day,
Yeah.
they begin to launch a siege on the shores of Maine. Our sovereignty was just attacked, and not only do we have pacts with a bunch of European nations like NATO, which I know that Ukraine is not a part of NATO. However, it is in a lot of their best interests to make sure that the territorial sovereignty of nations is respected. Because if they come for Ukraine first, what's stopping them from coming from Latvia next, or Lithuania, or any other of the Soviet bloc countries? And moreover, curbing the Russian sphere of influence is good for the Western, hegemony, for Western values, and for the American sphere of influence in liberal democracy. So that's another reason why, is because Ukraine is, albeit a flawed democracy, still a democracy, and having a democracy that close to Russia and having it win a war is an ideologically destroying move. Russia would, if they win, would have tried to invade, this nation that's magnitudes weaker and magnitude smaller, and got their asses kicked, which is happening right now, actually. I want to ask you, how many Ukrainian soldiers do you think have died?
Like close to 1 million, right?
That is incorrect, and I know that for a fact because I have looked at it. Not only is it incorrect, it is Russian state propaganda. I looked throughout the entire internet. I looked at US agencies, I looked at UK agencies, I looked at news stuff, completely non-biased news stuff. I looked at Ukrainian defense ministry, and the only source that says that close to 1 million Ukrainians have died is from TASS. Do you know what TASS is?
No, you're not.
It is Russian state-sponsored.
How many
media.
have that? Tell me.
It is under 100,000.
So if only 100,000 Ukrainian soldiers. Okay, so the main reason that I'm so anti the Ukraine war is because I feel like obviously it's a stalemate. There's billions of dollars being funded into it, and just millions of Ukrainian men that are forced to stay there are just being killed, basically murdered, essentially, over a foreign war that I feel like most people don't even understand. So just me, if I was
Yes, a lot of people don't understand it, including you.
Do you know that when the war started, basically every male age 18 to 59 was not allowed to leave?
Yes.
So let's say if there was a war that happened, say with the Maine example, let's say you got invaded by Canada and you lived in the state of Maine and Maine got invaded. I don't want to fight in that war. You want to talk about violations of democracy? I don't want to fight in that war, and now I'm forced to fight Canada? Maybe I don't even care about this country. Why do I have to stay and fight? And then you as an outsider, and that's the reason I don't understand liberal policies, is you as an outsider, I'm not saying you specifically, but I feel like people who call for war in Ukraine, first of all, if you're not actively involved in the world, you are a liar and you are a coward. Because you, not in the war, never having to fight, never had to shoot a rifle, you are calling for war in Ukraine, saying you have to fight this evil Russian Empire, when in reality some of them don't want to be there. So obviously, yes, there are arguments for both sides, but just me, personally, I believe that, yeah, a bunch of Ukrainians died unfairly. And obviously, I feel like Trump was trying to sign a peace treaty to obviously prevent some of the killing, or I would like to believe he's doing so. And I mean, if less than 100,000 Ukrainians have died, good, because obviously that's the most important thing, is preserving life. And obviously, I feel like Trump, just in general, is an anti-war president. He doesn't want people to die. But yeah, obviously, like I said, I don't know the details about the Ukraine war. Obviously, as a person that likes personal finance, I don't think I would be funneling money into this stalemate when it could be given to obviously my own family, or AKA Americans, if I was president. And then, I mean, I think a lot close to Ukrainian soldiers have died. I mean, I don't know where that close to 100,000 number has came from.
Almost every reputable source says it's under 100,000.
I don't believe that, bro. Can you show me a Google search?
Yeah, sure. I think I have it cited here. So first of all, I have the TASS article cited here, which is Moscow Chief of Staff Vitaly Jeremizov said the military political situation in the world is characterized by a growing number of armed conflicts in various parts, and the key reason of the West is the Western desire to keep dominating. Where is it? Since the beginning of the operation, the Ukrainian army has lost close to 1 million soldiers killed and wounded, as close to 20,000 tanks and armored vehicles. This is the only source that says it, and it is a Russian state-sponsored thing. If you want to talk about not trusting the news, why are you...
Yeah, Google says 12,000. You're right about that.
Yeah. It's...
European military... Russia's loss of 850,000. Yeah, there's a lot of different news stories about it.
Yes, because you have the idea of the fog of war, where you don't really, not everything can be known for certain until the rubble clears.
Nothing on the internet's real. Nothing's on the news is real, basically. And I'm a very anti-war.
Cliche. But
I'm very anti-war individual. I don't like young men having to force to stay.
The other problem is, more or less, the right wing, like the far right, is completely compromised by Russian disinformation. Do you know the Tenet media scandal?
I do not.
Okay, so it broke last year, around August, where Tenet Media is this right-wing media group that that signs people like Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, I forget all of their names, Lauren Shin, Lauren Southern, Dave Rubin. They're all Russian media assets.
I did not know any of who these people are.
Okay, well, that's... Even still, that's not a surprise. But the fact that so many... These are quite famous, at least in like the debate sphere and the politics' hobby sphere. They're right-wing influencers who are paid like $100,000 per month to propagate Russian disinformation and spread political division. So if you want to know where a lot of your right-wing media is coming from, it's coming from the Kremlin.
Yeah, like I said, I really do not know anything about that. But this is a question I have for you. Like I said, I don't know anything, bro. Like, I'm just looking. Let's say if you were president and say you had $300 billion, and say you were in control of this Ukraine war, would you rather give that $300 billion to Ukraine or 300 to buy hospitals, to build hospitals? Like, what do you think would just be a better investment? Obviously, this is personal
So if I
choice.
had a magical $300 billion,
Yes.
first of all, Russian, Ukrainian aid is not just a magical $300 billion. A lot of it, because military tech is so expensive, is just surplus supplies that we have lying around that we just itemized. So even though if I had $300 billion, and did you say just give it to Ukraine or give it to a war or what? Let's get specific here.
Like 300, just say 300 billion cash. Would you give it to a war to build the hospitals?
Well, it depends on the war. So
What if it was like the Ukraine war? Just would you 300 billion cash, give it to Ukraine to build hospitals?
so
You could build a hospital, you could supply it with doctors and nurses in every rural town in America, or 300 billion in Ukraine. And if you are saying they're only giving war tanks that are used, then okay, cool. Why you can just sell those war tanks instead to foreign nations, get the money, and then build the hospitals.
So I think it's like I get this sort of false equivalency you're trying to.
How's that a false equivalency? Would you rather just ignore the war and keep all your money and say, okay, you're a little guy, you're getting bullied, that's not my problem? Or would you rather say, okay, I'm going to build hospitals and staff it with physicians?
I would give the money to Ukraine because it is American.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, like I said, that's your opinion.
America, first of all, we have had a longer, I guess, conflict with the Russians than basically any other nation. Since 1945, we have at least through proxies and through other means have been fighting with the Soviets and Russia. And it's also important for American values to stand up for the little guy, because we were once the little guy, and France stood up for us. We stood up for the nations during World War I and World War II, and I don't think that's any different here. Ukraine is having a flawed democracy, yes, but a democracy nonetheless, is having their values and having their entire existence threatened by our biggest enemy. And it would be wrong to not help them, especially that since basically every single nation that is in the Western sphere of influences is also helping them.
Okay,
Gotcha. So next issue is we can do the Tate stuff now if you want.
You want to start on it? Or you want me to start on it?
So you're a big Andrew Tate fan, I gather.
This is my hero. Top G, Andrew Tate. Helps the young men of the world and inspires them to be better and also try their best every day. How do you feel about him?
I think he's a terrible human being. I think that's kind of inarguable that he is a terrible human being. And I don't understand the people who are able to morally justify supporting him when he is a sex trafficking rapist.
Well, he hasn't been convicted of any charges right now, has he? He's innocent until proven guilty in American democracy. That's correct, right?
He fled to Romania because of their lax sexual assault and rape laws, and they have a different legal system, which interned him for a much longer time. So saying that, holding him to the American standard when he wants to flee from American justice is not correct. Moreover, the evidence is there. He's just been...
What evidence?
What evidence? You have the chat logs. You have him admitting...
Chat logs?
You have him admitting...
Oh, wow.
On... You have him admitting multiple times to basically how he grooms women, to pimp them out. More or less, pimping them out.
How's that human trafficking?
I can't explain the dead letter of the law, but there's a lot more to that than, do you think that's okay? Do you think that pimping women out to make money for you through OnlyFans is a morally acceptable action?
Yes. Because it depends on the concept. Obviously, the idea of keeping someone in your basement and chaining them up and forcing them to stay, obviously that's bad, right? That shouldn't be happening. But I mean, if you, say for example, if you hit a girl on Facebook and she likes you and she consensually comes to your house and you explain to her how the work process works and she's willing to do it and she works for you and you're kind to her and you pay her and everything's on the table and everything's consensual and forward, then there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like, webcam in OnlyFans is completely legal. Obviously, like I said, with your saying, I don't know everything about, like, what happened in the background, so I'm not going to comment on it. So, I mean, we'll see if he's proven innocent or guilty or not, but it's the same thing. I don't think it's fair for you to be calling someone who hasn't actually been convicted of sex trafficking and being a rapist to call him that when he hasn't been convicted of any crimes. So I think that's kind of unfair, especially because you said you believe in the law, and I feel like him in general is part of the reason I don't believe in law, because specifically he got arrested like 2.5 years ago. He got put in jail for 3 months, and he wasn't even charged with the crime at that point. Obviously, Romania has a very different legal system. He got charged with human trafficking, and then he's been on house arrest for 2 years, and now he's off of house arrest in the USA currently, not charged with any crimes, and not convicted of any crimes. I don't see how that.
You have jurisdiction. That's another problem. So,
but how can he? So, for example, you know more about law because obviously you're thinking about going to law school than I do. But my thing is like, okay, if a guy was arrested and then for 2.5 years the case has gone on and there hasn't been a trial, and I don't know, how does that make sense?
I mean, the legal system takes
it does take a while.
Takes a phenomenally long amount of time. That's at least in the U.S. and less developed nations like Romania. I have no clue about anything regarding Romanian law.
Yeah.
But
So do you disagree with like his message, or like, cause obviously
I disagree with.
So obviously you think he's a sex trafficker. Okay, cool. You're entitled to your own opinion. I don't think he's a sex trafficker. That's cool. But like, do you agree with like his message personally, and like, what do you not like?
No, I think he has a bastardization of masculinity, and I think this it is. That's I wrote about this for a paper, but one of the key takeaways of the 2024 election is the right wing was successfully able to fabricate masculinity politics, and it worked. They sold millions of young men, especially young white men, this lie that they're somehow oppressed, and made them hate this society that has catered to them for centuries, because there has been some strides towards greater equality of other people. And I think he is, I guess, the epitome of that idea, where he is, if you can look past the sex trafficking, which is, probably a big ask for most people with a heart, he still has a lot of his ideology is completely vile. You have very racist statements, you have very anti-Semitic statements, you have his sexism to almost the point of dehumanization. I don't know how you can look at that and look up to him when he doesn't.
He's my hero.
When he doesn't even view half the world's population practically as human.
Yeah,
have
you ever made a joke with your friends, Connor?
Yes, of course. I've made a joke with my friends.
Yeah, obviously, I feel
Do you think all of that stuff is jokes?
I mean, no, not all of it is jokes, and kind of like what I said. Like, I don't have to agree.
Do you think it's a character? Do you think?
I think he's very charismatic, and he's very controversial.
Not charismatic. Not charismatic.
He's extremely charismatic.
Do you think it's a character? Like I don't know how to explain it. There's some like gangster rappers are not like that in real life. They go in the studio, they put on their gangster persona, and they rap, and then they're a normal person outside. Do you think Andrew Tate is like that? Do you think, or is he actually as violently sexist and homophobic and racist as he seems? Or is he putting that on?
I mean, he's definitely putting it on from what you understand. Because, for example,
then he's faking it. And how, if you value authenticity, you have this very big problem where either you're idolizing this guy who's basically just playing it up to get money out of you and to make you feel inferior, or he is as bad as he is in person and is just the worst kind of person. He doesn't, that's what I can't wrap my mind around Tate fans. is you have this no-win situation here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I mean, even with some of my friends, obviously, I have friends of other races, and we make racist jokes all the time, like just between us, because I feel like this might sound kind of weird, but I feel like by acknowledging, how do I say this? I feel like, let's say there's two billionaires in a room, one's white and one's black. None of them are going to acknowledge race, like no one really cares. But it's only at the bottom that people seem to try to use race to, I guess, kind of divide people. And I feel like that's a big psyop, especially. But
okay, but if that's the case, Andrew Tate does that too. He does it
because he thinks it's funny, and teenage boys think it's funny.
Okay, but isn't that a problem if he's propagating, these? Even if he thinks it's funny, there's a lot of people who take it very seriously and use that
That's
to
right.
justify.
They do take that very seriously.
So, do you think he should condone that? Do you think he should, or moreover, condemn it? Do you think he should say, hey, what I said is a racist joke and should not be taken literally. Please don't hate black people the way I hate black people, or hate Jews the way I hate Jews. It's all a character.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. I think he has said.
So you think he should condone?
Yes, I think
he should condemn his actions.
He should condone it.
Condone or condemn it?
What's the difference?
Condone means you approve it. Like, I condone being an ally. I condemn homophobia. They're antonyms. So do you think he should condone making, like, his terrible jokes and people taking them literally, or should he condemn them?
For example, I don't think it's his fault to apologize for other people taking his advice. Like, for example...
Well, that's the point of advice.
Like, I feel like
so, like, you can't offer, hey, word to the wise, I'm top G, you should hate women, and then people hate women. Oh, I didn't mean it like that. You can't have it both ways.
Let's say if I make a joke, like, say, for example, do you think Taylor Swift should be held responsible for everyone who gets in a car crash listening to a Taylor Swift song?
What? That's not even remotely accurate. That's not even remotely similar. What are you talking about?
Like, if Andrew Tate, say, he makes a racist joke, and obviously there's going to be some kid that goes around high school making racist jokes and trying to act like Andrew Tate, do you think Andrew Tate responsible for that kid making that joke, or do you think the individual is responsible for being racist?
I feel like he bears some responsibility. Yes.
I just don't think he does.
Why doesn't he? Because, like, if this idea hinges on the fact that the kid would not make the racist jokes if he didn't hear them from Tate, then it is a logical necessity through, like, actual formal logic that is a required condition for him to make those racist jokes. So to deny that he would have some culpability is to deny basic logic. And would you go that far for Tate to deny basic logic?
I mean, I made $5K on this crypto coin. So I mean,
the currency that's down 25% right now.
I bought it at 4 cents a coin, like, I think earlier in February or January, and it went up to like 7 cents when you got out of jail. So I swapped it and made like a 2 cent profit on like 250,000 coins. So I made $5K on this coin. I don't know. It's kind of like
justify.
Yeah, I know.
Shithead.
I know. I understand what you're saying. Obviously, I don't agree with anything anyone says. But it's kind of like
then you stand for nothing. You have to agree. You have to.
I don't agree with everything anyone says. If that makes sense. So obviously, like, I can like someone and not agree with everything they say, just like you. But it's kind of like the Donald Trump thing. Do you think that, say, Andrew Tate goes on podcasts and he makes a bunch of videos telling young men to go to the gym and tell them they need to make money and tell them that they need to be strong and telling them that they need to work when they don't feel like working? Do you not agree that is better for men as a whole, or do you think he's just using them?
So, you bring up a good point. So, I have similar views when it comes to Jordan B. Peterson. Do you know?
I know Jordan Peterson.
Okay. So, Jordan B. Peterson is very interesting because he is very smart and also batshit insane. Jordan B. Peterson offers, honestly, some pretty good advice. His 12 rules for life
I've listened to it.
Are very, understandable rules. The problem when it comes to Jordan B. Peterson and Tate and stuff is, where's my phone calling? I cannot. So the problem when it comes to this stuff is that just because it's this weird pipeline where, like, I feel like they're not way easier, but you can learn to work out. You can learn to make your bed. You can learn to be nice to people without falling down the alt-right sexism pipeline. It is not very hard. I can do that. Like, and that's one of my problems, where it is not a necessary condition to be an asshole learning to work out or learning to earn money and whatever. There's plenty of buff Democrats. There's plenty of buff people of all types of people. So it's sort of, he's not a good mentor for people, because you can get those good skills from hundreds of other people without having to accept his terrible ideology. Do you condone sexism?
That means, like, say it's bad, right?
Do you condemn sexism? Or are you a sexist? Do you?
I think men are obviously better at certain things than women are. If that makes sense. So I do, yes, I condemn means disagree with.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously I disagree with sexism to a certain extent.
Okay.
If that makes sense. But is gender equality is later, right?
We can pivot into it now if you want.
So so obviously, like you said, I understand. Yeah, being an asshole is bad. Obviously, being a racist is bad. Yes, obviously, being a sexist is bad. Yes, obviously. Like I said, I don't agree with everything that he says, but that guy is my hero. Like, he's genuinely my hero. I think he's good for the world as a whole. I know he's definitely helped my life. He's taught me a lot about, like, trying to make money and trying to be a better person, and obviously going to the gym and trying to be a good person. So, as we go into gender equality next, I feel like, do you believe that women are more emotional creatures than men are?
I don't think it's. I don't think it's as simple as a binary choice. I believe that. Moreover, I am wise enough to know that I do not have the requisite knowledge of both evolutionary biology and psychology to make an accurate guess. And I cannot say for certain that that's not the case, but I would lean towards no, or if it is the case, yes, it is blown out of proportions. Okay, no, okay.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I definitely believe that women are more emotional creatures than men are. Like I said, I'm not sexist, but I definitely believe that men are definitely better at certain things than women are, and women are better at certain things than men are. That's why when you have a couple, you have a very masculine woman, you have not very masculine man, very feminine woman, you have a very unstoppable couple that is able to raise a family. So am I sexist to a certain extent? Yeah, I would say so. I don't believe that women are as good at doing certain things as men are. I don't believe that men are able to do certain things as good as women are. I mean, that's just how I particularly think. Connor doesn't agree with me to a certain extent, but I mean, like, if you date girls and you talk to girls, you will understand that I feel like in general, men make more logical decisions. Like, men are more of like 2 + 2 is 5, versus girls are more of like 2 + 2 is. I feel like men are more like 2 + 2 is 4, but women are more like 2 + 2 equals this. But I feel this way and I feel that way, and I feel like that's how a lot of women are. They're a lot more emotional creatures in general, just in regards to men. And I mean, this isn't to say anything to all of them, but I mean, I don't want to sound like a misogynist here, but do I believe that having mostly male leaders is probably best for the modern world? And I think yes, just because in general.
Well, just letting you know, that is a prima facie misogynist statement. So you can like not intend to sound like a misogynist when you say that, but when you say that, that is a misogynist statement. So either don't say it or own up to the fact that it is a misogynist statement.
But does it mean that I hate women, though? Does that mean that I hate them? If I say that male leaders are better?
Why do you think that, men should lead?
Because I feel like just in general.
There you go. You're using that "I feel" statement that you just were bashing.
From my anecdotal evidence from living my life, I feel like men are just better at making decisions. Most men are better at making decisions overall. I'm not saying that all men are, because there are a lot of men that are obviously really stupid, as you sure I've met. But I feel like overall, in general, men just in general are better at making decisions from a logical based standpoint, versus women are more of emotional creatures. So as opposed to if I wanted to have a leader, I would much rather vote for a man over a woman. And that's not saying anything bad about Kamala Harris, but I feel like that's how a lot of people felt, especially like men in general. So like, I don't want to say
that's not how I felt. But
yeah, well, I don't want to say I'm misogynistic because obviously like women are better at certain
what you're
things.
saying is misogynistic.
But perhaps if you want to go that way, but I feel like men are better at certain things than men are. So say if you had a kid and you were dropping them off at a daycare, would you drop your kid off at an all-male daycare? Or would it feel kind of weird?
What do you mean by that?
Like, for example, let's say you have a kid and you were dropping them off at a daycare for the day. Would you rather have a daycare that was staffed by all women or staffed by all men?
I would go to the daycare that has the best reviews.
But if you had two choices, like that's all you know is women or men.
Well,
or you don't think it matters between the genders.
If the people who are passionate enough to start a daycare, are both sides, I don't know. I think that's not a very good equivalency. I think, like, it's basing something just off of a coin flip or a gut feeling is completely anecdotal, and it's the anathema of actual, like, intellectual discussion. So I know you don't want to sound like a misogynist, and I'm not calling you a misogynist.
Okay.
But what you're saying is misogynistic. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's probably a fucking duck. So,
perhaps, yeah, maybe perhaps call me misogynistic, but like I said, I don't hate women, but I just from my anecdotal evidence in life, I would not want there to. I don't know. I would pick a male leader over a woman leader in most scenarios. That was the only information I was given.
okay.
Next topic. I know we disagree on that, but that's just my personal worldview. And as I mentioned, women are better at certain things too. Like for example, if there was a daycare, I would much rather have a women-ran daycare. If there was a daycare run by all men, it would just feel weird. I'd be like, no, I don't want my kid there. That'd be weird. So.
But I thought you loved, like, the manosphere and masculinity. Don't you want good male role models? So
women are better at certain things, right? So that's perhaps when you have a very feminine woman and you have a very masculine man, you have a very, very powerful couple, and that's how basically the modern world was built upon. But I mean, I feel like you get into a lot of this garbage where you say men are equal to women, and then you push women into male-owned fields, and you tell them like, hey, you're a woman, you be a career chick. I feel like that's more harmful for society as a whole because, for example, some women, if you go into a male-dominated field, and you're disappointed that you can't compete as good as a man, say, like, I don't think that's good for you.
I don't think that's accurate. What I mean by that is I don't think that's really happening. I think this is moreover, I guess, I took some courses. This is, I guess, a second and third wave feminist idea. But I think when it comes to that, feminism and, just the belief that, women are inferior to men isn't saying, you're a woman, go be an engineer, go, become a bodybuilder or whatever.
Yeah.
But if there's a young girl or a woman who wants to be an engineer or wants to be a bodybuilder, we shouldn't inhibit them from doing that. They should be allowed to chase their dreams. And if they fail, they fail. But giving them even the opportunity is the correct thing. It's the correct idea, because without that again, that is completely against what. Mom, the debate's still going on. I cannot talk right now. Goodbye. So, I love my mom, but yeah. So, I think this idea that, the family unit is being eroded because women want to work is, again, just a wrong idea. Women are more capable than just staying in the house, and believing such is the thing is just completely sexist.
And that's what I mentioned as well. I feel like most men are just a reflection of women, and all men. Like, all men aren't perfect.
Women aren't reflections of men. Women are women. Men are men. I
think that women are a reflection of men, because if every man was capable and strong, I feel like I said, for example, if every woman had a husband that made enough money, she wouldn't want to work, and I genuinely believe that. So I mean, we live in a society where every man is sad and depressed and doesn't want to work, then obviously that's going to reflect on women as well. So that's why I kind of feel like Trump winning was so great for the election, because it's going to inspire a lot of young men to try and be harder, which is going to be better for women as a whole in general.
I feel like that's motivated reasoning and sexist, again.
Perhaps.
Like, obviously you cannot separate yourself from your own view. You know, you can never not be Chase Parker. You can never not view reality from the lens of Chase. But, you know, being able to view it from... Do you know what being able to view stuff from other people's ideologies and views is called?
Stepping in other people's
It's
shoes.
called empathy. And I think that is something that's required for not only being a governor, but being a good person. And I think, you know, not being able to even empathize with women and understand that, you know, viewing them as just male-driven, you know, I'm only going to live through the lens and existence of men is just wrong. It's just wrong. And not just from a moral view, but also from a factual view. And the amount of motivated reasoning and fallacious talk and thought-terminating cliches that you use in order to allow for this thought to happen is just captivating, and it's why Andrew Tate is such a scam artist, and all of those men's rights activists, all of the manosphere people, because they offer them a worldview where this is one of this is what's so seductive about Andrew Tate or about any views that are similar to that, where they take men who seem downtrodden. Like, I'm using Andrew Tate, for example, but you can do this with many different viewpoints. They take men who feel downtrodden, who feel violated or not given enough respect, and they offer them love in a community for the sole purpose, for the sole reason that they are men. And
what's wrong with that?
I never said that there's anything wrong with that. I'm saying that it's a very seductive idea, offering somebody love and universal love and appreciation for the fact that they are a man. But
is that human trafficking?
No. So, but
were they groomed into the community to feel loved and respected?
I get that you're
like
trying
all
to
those webcam girls.
I get that you're trying to take the piss out of it, but
I understand.
It's truly what's happening for a lot of the time. You can do that. Like, it's kind of similar, but not really. Not actually, that's not a good example. I think one of the things that it's, I don't want to say our job, but it's people's job to, I guess, explain to people who have began to fall down that pipeline that you don't have to be an asshole to be loved. You don't need to idolize this pretty objectively terrible person to be loved and appreciated. And I think that's one of the main problems when it comes to one of my main critiques of the left is that I think that they are unable to, I guess, accept, I don't even want to say performance, but understand where some of the far right men are coming from. And I think that that's one of the main problems is, like, I've heard your story, and I believe, and I have no reason to doubt that all of that happened, and I believe that's very inspiring. I believe that you are very devoted, and you're a very strong worker, and very motivated on being successful and famous, and I really appreciate that. I think it's awesome that you can do that, and that you are so driven to do that. I seriously do.
I genuinely appreciate that.
I do. And I would like to still be your friend. I think you're a neat guy, and I look forward towards your future.
We'll be friends, Connor, don't worry.
But not even a problem, and I appreciate you for who you are.
Thank you.
But I don't also need to say, but if you want to roll with my club, you have to hate women. I don't see where, I don't understand the motivated reasoning there, where, I want to offer you this olive branch. I want to show you that, because some part of me seems that I'm kind of talking out of my ass here, but
It's fine. Go ahead, speak up.
you seem, our armchair psychology, you are hungry. You want to be respected. And that, I think, stems from your want to be appreciated and loved.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there are better ways of going about that than, especially with the right wing and especially with Andrew Tate. Because one of the other things about the right wing with the current MAGA movement is it is like an Ouroboros. It's eating itself right now. Wherein, like, it's this idea of the no true Scotsman fallacy made manifest when it comes to the MAGA movement. Whenever anyone criticizes Trump, or whenever anyone goes against, I guess, what the mainline idea is, they're branded as a heretic and kicked out. That happened when, I think it was Mark Milley went against him. Oh, he's a rhino. Or someone else went against him. Oh, he's a rhino. He's not a true Republican. Oh, he's, yada, yada, yada. And it's going to happen until there's only one Trump fan left, and that's Trump. And I think if you are searching for love and appreciation, which I think we all are to some level,
That's correct.
I don't think that is the right path. But that's just me. And
Abortion.
yeah, okay.
Let's go. What do you think about abortion? So obviously, like, from what I understand, Roe v. Wade has been overturned, right? And now the states are able to make decisions. That was
Yes.
2022, right?
Yeah.
So if you were governor, which maybe in 2 or 3 decades, people are watching this later, this might actually be more important. If you were governor, what is your stance on abortion?
I'm pro-choice. I think, moreover, I don't think Roe v. Wade should ever have been overturned.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, and this deals with some, I guess, higher level legal, not theories, but I guess constitutional ideas, where Roe v. Wade wasn't just a document that said you can have abortions now. What it is it basically is an argument through the 14th Amendment. And one of the main parts of the 14th Amendment is called the Due Process Clause.
Yeah.
And that basically says if all rights, let me pull it up here to get the specific language, because it's specific and important. So, no state shall make or enforce any laws that shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, property without due process of laws, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction equal protection under the laws. So, Roe v. Wade came out of Texas because they had an abortion law. However, and again, this is like a mile a minute, like 3-minute explanation. This is...
You don't have to do all that, bro. It's fine. You just finish.
Well, I mean, it's needed to explain my argument.
Okay.
So, Roe v. Wade basically made some unenumerated rights of citizens through the 10th Amendment. It incorporated them to the states. So, 14th Amendment incorporation is this process where there's a lot of laws that, like, you have federally that you don't have at the state level, or you didn't have. Like, for a very long time, you didn't have a right to counsel if you were sued or not sued, if you were accused of a crime on a state court. And then it was, I forget the court, but there was a Supreme Court case that said that no, if you were accused of a crime at the state level, you have a right to an attorney.
So you don't think abortion is murder, basically?
So I think the main thing is that Roe v. Wade, and moreover, the jurisprudence behind that, completely steps from the whether it's murder or not. Because it incorporated the right to privacy and bodily autonomy to the states. So the question isn't whether it's murder or not, it's whether the state or the government has a right to know what's going on with your body. The reason why Roe v. Wade is important is because those unenumerated rights are, just because they aren't stated in the Constitution doesn't mean they don't exist. There's a reason, like through Roe v. Wade, there's a reason why you aren't forced to donate marrow. There's a reason why your organs can't be harvested through after you die unless you are a registered donor. That is through your right to privacy and right to bodily autonomy, and that's what Roe v. Wade protected. So overturning it, I don't think it should ever have been a state's issue. The other thing is nobody, no person, no government can use your body without your continued eager, enthusiastic consent. That's why they can't drain your marrow. That's why there's not compulsory blood donations, even though we might have a shortage. So that's where my abortion reasoning comes from. Not just because I respect women's right to choose and their own bodily autonomy, but because the government should have no say in it. It is not the government's decision or prerogative what I do with my own body and whatever is inside of it.
You're absolutely correct, and obviously I'm anti-government as well. I don't want the government to really know anything about what I'm doing. That's why I'm kind of anti-marriage. I mean, like I said, I don't know if I would personally ever get married. Like, obviously you can date, but I don't know about the idea of ever getting married because I don't really want to have the government in between me and my relationship. So yeah, if I were a governor, yes, I would be pro-choice. Not necessarily because I support abortion, but I mean, I would even like to argue that forcing someone who can't support a child to raise a child is probably even worse than the abortion process in and of itself.
That too.
Because I mean, like, you can be as right-wing as possible, but I mean, I think everyone agrees that the average, like, say, like 17, 18-year-old boy who basically gets a girl pregnant and gets another 17, 18-year-old girl to get pregnant. They're not capable of raising a child. So I would perhaps like to argue that forcing, say a crack addict on the side of the street that got raped, obviously, to have a kid, to raise a child, that's worse than the abortion in and of itself. So yeah, I would be pro-choice if I was a governor. Like I said, but I don't necessarily think it should be like seen as I think it should be seen as a necessary evil, last possible choice. I don't think it should be seen as like another form of contraception, basically. Sorry, I don't think it should be like celebrated. But yeah, I would be pro-choice if I was a governor. I know a lot of people would be interested about that, but I wouldn't want it to be something that's basically glorified or anything. Mm-hmm. How about you?
That's between the pregnant person and their doctor. I think it should be legal. I think it should be, and that's about it. I don't think that it is from a government or from a personal perspective, it's not my job or not my care what someone does with their own body.
That's right.
Like, same reason, like, if someone gets a tattoo, that's awesome. I don't care. Good for them. And I think that's
none of my business.
Exactly. Do you want to go to some questions?
Yeah, or did we get to the last topic?
Well, the last topic is you being governor.
And yeah. So a lot of people were interested in why I did this podcast, but I kind of explained to a lot of people that follow me on Instagram.
We have 10 minutes. So.
Yeah. Oh, all right, cool.
So,
yeah, well, we already talked about that. Obviously, I want to become extremely powerful and extremely respected. I feel like that's the masculine imperative to do the best you possibly can to your family and your bloodline, to obviously try your best every day and be as strong, as respected, and as rich as you possibly can. So, yeah, Connor's really cool. I respect him as a person. He's a nice guy. I might even hang out with him later. I mean, obviously, besides the political stuff, I mean, he seems like a quite chill guy. Seems like a smart guy. But, we'll get into chat comments. So, go ahead, chat, and type all your questions. I'll look at some of the earlier replies from later.
Yes.
So we can go ahead and answer this because we're going to end in about 10 minutes or so. We got avocado plant. Look at that soy boy over there. NPC, you're not real, bro. Howdy, Kana. Carlos Garcia said, "It's my league, buddy. We kicked you out." Who's Carlos?
Yeah, I don't want to air beef like that. That's
Connor, lay off the estrogen.
That's from Fletcher. Of course it is.
Fletcher explained what's happening. The debate for NC governor. Just a room full of NPCs. You think we're NPCs? It's not very kind of you, dude. Yo, mama. Been promoting this debate. That's cap. Carlos is promoting Roy Cooper over me. Cool. People on here, bro. Geeking. Everyone nowadays want to make a podcast. Tack Jake comments right now. Yo. Connor, they want to know if you're going to law school after. Tell them about your ambitions.
Right now, yeah. I plan to go to law school. I'm not certain. I'm not for certain of anything, but I think right now, given my two majors and given my propensity for the tasks that are associated with a law career, I would do very well there.
Yeah, Connor's a smart guy. You should be a lawyer. You can make some money. You can do very good for yourself. What's a tariff? What is a tariff? You want to tell me what a tariff is, Connor? You think that's necessary?
What? Tariffs? Tariffs? Tariffs are pretty stupid from an economic point of view. They are basically government mandated taxes for the sole reason of protectionary or promoting a domestic industry. So you have specific tariffs, which would be like the United States putting a tariff on foreign microchips, or you have broad tariffs, and also it's usually given by a percentage. So like a 25% tariff means the government basically increases the price of whatever by 25% or however many percentages on export, and siphons that to themselves for the sole reason of they want to discourage those things from being imported or not being made domestically.
Thank you, Con. So, Demolition Dane said for real, protesting peacefully isn't illegal. Absolutely right. Another guy says Tate sucks. Another guy says I thought this was political. I guess he must have joined when we were talking about something else. Fletcher said Connor's so corny, disrespecting his mom. That's a woman.
What are you?
But Fletcher's a troll. Fletcher, you're a troll. But that's about it for chat. All right, Mr. Connor. Thank you for debating me today. I'm going to upload this to YouTube and Rumble. Everyone have a great day.
Y'all have a nice day.
Peace out, gang.
I'll be in the stream.